Clock's rolling.
What do we got here?
Everything we just talked about. There was a plan inside.
Did we go over this?
Are you kidding me?
What's the right boat for me? What's the right boat for you?
I'm Joe, and this is Johnny.
In the past year, we bought old trawlers to Liveaboard. We've been learning, upgrading, and adventuring on our yachts Toko and Estrellas ever since.
Subscribe to our channel to see how far we've come and just how far we'll go. Welcome aboard. So today's video is going to be focused on that question exactly. We've gotten it from a handful of followers at a handful of different points since we got the boats and started our pages. So it's a great question because I think a lot of people end up with the wrong boat. So we're just going to go through the basics of what you should be considering. Assuming you've already made the decision that you want a boat, we'll just go through the basics, and then at the very end of this video we'll talk about why we both chose trawlers as our first boats.
All right, let's see. Consideration number one: what is it for? What are you going to do with your boat? Do you want to sail? Do you want to live aboard? Is it for overnight trips? Is it for work related? Is it for recreation? Or like some sort of combination of several of those things? Fast or slow? Kind of like a speedboat type thing, or more of a cruiser? Long voyages, short voyages? So there's a million different questions you can ask yourself for that first consideration that we've come up with here. What is it for? And I think before you can kind of answer that question, you have to kind of know what it is that you're interested in and kind of what it is that you're looking for. So definitely having a plan before you go look for a boat, otherwise you'll never be able to make up your mind.
And for the purposes of this video, we're not going to talk about work boats. That's kind of a whole separate realm, and at this point we use our boats for leisure. So we'll be focusing on those considerations. Maybe in the future we'll make another video explaining a little bit more about utility of a boat. But for this one, it's just about having fun. So once you've decided that you want a boat, and you know, whatever your purposes are, long-term, short-term, weekends, saltwater, freshwater, the real big bifurcation buoy, if you will, is between power and sail. They both have their advantages, they both have their disadvantages. There's never going to be a boat that can do everything that you want it to do. So you're gonna have to sacrifice some things, but there are a lot of options for boats that will make you very happy for a long time.
For me, and for Joe in particular, living aboard was the biggest factor. And so that honestly, unless it's a massive sailboat that you have, the quarters on a sailboat can be a little confined, and it's not because they're better or worse than trawlers or powerboats. It's just by design they tend to be a bit longer and narrower than a trawler, where you know you kind of make best use of the space, and there's much more living space. There's less parts on board where you have to, you know, where you can't stand fully upright, and there's just typically more storage just because of the design of the boat. I like to sail, and that was kind of what I did like before I lived on a boat. So if I ever don't live on a boat someday, I'll probably go back to a sailboat. But definitely the trawler was the thing for me in terms of power or sail, because I was looking for a boat to substitute housing for, and it's been great so far, and I think that it was a big factor for me.
A note about living aboard: most powerboats, again, Johnny said, are going to be a little bit more spacious versus a sailboat. Both can be equally satisfying, I think, but it depends on, again, that first consideration of what do you want the boat for. If you're looking to do long-term cruising, you know, if you're looking across oceans, or even, you know, a big trip into Baja, Mexico, you probably want to go for the more fuel-efficient route with a sailboat. in which case that would be the best liveaboard situation for you. We'll talk more at the end about why we chose trawlers for our situations, but the amount of travel we do with the boats at this point is much more limited to a full-time cruiser. So we would sacrifice that fuel economy for more space and practicality on a day-to-day basis on the dock.
So for when you're thinking about power versus sail, considering the speeds that you'll be operating with is definitely something to consider. Your power boats are definitely more capable in terms of speed, and depending on what size power boat you get or type of engine you get, or things like that, you're definitely going to be, if you're looking to go fast and get places quick, you're better off with a power boat. What you'll see here, well, I guess with boating in general, is a lot of people who have kind of bigger boats or sailboats that aren't exactly the fastest. They'll have a small boat like a dinghy or a tender or something that they can use to get from point A to point B quickly, like if you're going out to dinner, or if you're trying to transport people, or just like going for a little cruise around the bay, but you don't want to fire up the big engine and waste gas that way. But for a sailboat, definitely not looking at as much speed as you could get in a power boat, obviously, because its primary mode of travel is with the wind. But it doesn't mean a sailboat doesn't have an engine. It's just not going to be capable of the kind of speed you could get if you had like a sport fish or a speedboat or something like that.
In terms of practicality also, speedboat or a power boat versus sailboat, typically you're going to need more help with a sailboat because you've got a lot more rigging, you've got to raise and lower sails. When it's time to turn or tack, you might be heeling one way, and then you tack and you're heeling the other way, and people are going to have to get up and sit on the other side of the boat. So if your consideration is comfort for your passengers, then a power boat is probably a better option. But then again, if your passengers are mostly there for an experience and want to get hands-on, there would be much more involvement for them with a sailboat. So once you've made the determination that you want to get a sailboat or a power boat, the next consideration really kind of applies for both routes, and that is what size boat you want to get, and compare that to your budget. So by and large, more boat means more money because you're going to need a bigger slip, so that's going to cost more. You're going to have more material to maintain. Bigger boats, you might get more rigging, another engine, etc. So the more you have, the more you have to care for. And so one of the best pieces of advice that I was given in my search in the early days was, don't buy the most expensive or largest boat that your money can afford, but buy the smallest boat that you can afford to comfortably meet your needs. And so what I mean is, get the smallest boat that is going to perform the function that you desire, and then use it for a while, especially if it's your first boat. And then if in time you realize, man, we're pretty cramped on this 32-foot boat, let's jump up to a 36 or a 42 or whatever size jump you need. But really learn what a certain length of vessel can provide for you, because you'll find that there's a lot more space in a lot of cases than you might initially expect.
Okay, so why trawlers for us? Kind of like I said before, we love trawlers because what we were looking for was boats where we could live and live aboard, and be able to be here in San Diego and travel to places and spend the weekend, and do that affordably and comfortably and safely, and with enough room to live. And these trawlers, these older trawlers that we've got, we're just checking all the boxes in terms of stuff that we wanted for those reasons. So for me, the trawler was the best choice because of the ability to have kind of a normal size bed, a larger refrigerator, normal storage for all your stuff and your clothes, and just like you know, just like random odds and ends that normally you just throw in a closet in your house. And you know, the trawler just had all the space and all the stuff that I needed to, you know, kind of make it my home. And it's been great so far. And it was the right decision for me. And I'm glad that I put some thought into it and wrote some stuff down and kind of knew what I was looking for before I started looking, because this ended up being the right choice.
Yeah, I would completely agree with all those points. Another consideration I had at the beginning is that I didn't know how to sail at the time of the beginning of my search. So I kind of outruled sailboats from the start. And so I started looking at different power boats, and my budget was nothing grand. So I just started kind of at the upper limit of my budget and looked at all the available boats on Yacht World, Boat Trader, Craigslist, OfferUp, all the different sites to try and see what even falls within my potential budget here. And I came to find that I kept clicking on trawlers mostly because I like the way they look. And then lucky for me, they ended up checking all my other boxes of diesel engine, good fuel economy as far as boats go, lots of space, easy to work on, and then just comfortable and interesting boats. You know, it's like about the amount of space you would have in like a studio apartment, but it floats and you can take it anywhere, and it's manageable for one person. So yeah, like Johnny said, it checked all the boxes, and it just became a lucky find, really. I'd never even heard the word trawler before I started looking for boats, and here I am thinking they're the most beautiful boats in the world, and I'm right, they are. And not only that, but they're easy to work on, like I mentioned before. Everything, especially from like the mid 70s to 80s time frame, it's all very simple systems. And really, I think that that's part of my understanding of the beauty of these boats, is that they are for the regular person. You don't have to be you know, a trained mechanic or electrician to make upgrades, or carpenter to put a new cabinet in. And that's just been really, really fun as a first-time boat owner and homeowner.